Big update today. Lots to cover. Hopefully, I can do it all in some sort of like cohesive podcast. So, I've been working on Sapling, and I have a. If I jump over to Chrome and I go to Sapling, so Sapling is a just a giving platform. It's something I kicked off to try and test some AI skills. So back in 2015, I wrote the original Sapling, and that was, really what you see here. It's a giving grid, 1 through 100. You can give certain squares, and you can hide prizes under it, and we connect it to Stripe and so on. Back then, I didn't actually connect it to Stripe. I connected it to Braintree payments. Anyway, last year, about this time in the fall, I decided to bring it back, and I thought, well, Chat GPT is pretty cool, and I think maybe what I'll do is I'll try to modernize the code. I didn't know the capabilities of you know code tools and things like that, so I basically unzipped the archive from my 2015 project, and I took each individual page one by one and dropped them into ChatGPT and said, "Hey, can you modernize this?" It was a PHP application with MySQL as a backend, sitting, I think, on DigitalOcean. None of it would work in today's, updated infrastructure. It was all, legacy code. But ChatGPT was amazing. It literally just cranked out new files. So I maybe had like 30 different PHP files, and I just copied, pasted, and then I spun up a web server, and it worked. I couldn't believe it. So that was looking back on all of the fits and starts I've had with Claude Code and Gemini and Chat GPT. I'm probably lucky that I had such a good experience with it, because if I'd had some of the more recent experiences, I probably would have said, yeah, AI is just not ready yet. But there are some really cool things. Well, at some point, that's what ultimately created this. If I go to, this is a sample project, and it's basically a YouTube video with some photos, I think. Yeah, some photos. We're doing a fundraiser for the kids' playground. And then you basically give squares. So, I can give a square, put in my payment information. I mean, it's really simple. And so the goal is to cover up all the squares, and then also allow somebody to hide little prizes underneath specific squares and so on. So it's kind of a fresh take on, online fundraising. But anyway, I wanted to modernize this using just from the ground up. I wanted to try and exercise in AI vibe coding with Claude to see if it could actually rebuild this entire application without me touching a single line of code. So I ponied up for the Max, Claude Max, and got started. So I, you can probably go back to some other podcasts and you can see what I've done. And so now I use, VS Code, and I think what I want to talk about today is I want to talk about the use of agents, something that I've started to really unpack. And listen, I'm not the authority on Claude Code. I'm learning things that people probably already know and knew, a couple weeks ago or months ago or whatever. So some of this might be a nothing burger for some people, but for me, these are just my experiences I really want to share and put on YouTube, because why not? But one of the things that Claude Code has shown me is that you can get some really great results, and then you can get some really garbage results. And so what I've learned is that all has to do with context window. So context windows, if you don't know, at this point, the context windows are, I think it's like 200,000 tokens. And once it fills up, you have to compact what you have and then start over. And what we've been finding in Claude Code is that context windows fill up fast, and they get really cluttered. So not only do they fill up, the fuller they get, the worse your output becomes, because Claude is using so much context to try and do sometimes some simple things. And what I mean by that is I'll start building something in Claude, and I'll say, hey, I need this, this new feature, and it gets started, does some work, and then I say, oh, you know what, can you fix that one error? So now we've started down this path of building this big feature, and then we just kind of took a left or a right turn and are fixing this one little bug. Well, this one little bug doesn't really, I mean, it relates, but not really to the whole project that Claude's been working on. So now Claude is like, wait a second, what's this bug? And then it tries to like relate it to the whole project, and then it gets confused. And there's actually been some studies which I find funny, because we've only had agents in Claude and Claude Code for a while. I mean, have we had it long enough to really do some in-depth studies? But they have said that context windows, as they fill up, the quality and hallucinations will increase dramatically, and the quality drops by like 90% or something. It is shocking. So one of the things I use in Claude all the time is the clear command, and what it does is it just wipes your context window so you can start over. But so I want to talk about agents, and I want to talk about this new feature that I'm developing. So when when you see this right now, it's pretty straightforward, right? I mean, you sign up, you pick how many squares you want, whether it's 100, 250, 500, so on. And then it renders these 1, 2, 3. And when you give, you're giving. So I gave 2. Well, actually, I have more than that. So let me just get rid of these. So right now, my total should be $3 and then $6. So if I come down here, yep, $6. Not rocket surgery, but it's kind of fun. When Claude built the new platform, it said, oh, hey, look, Matt wants to set a goal, and the goal is going to be whatever he wants it to be. And then I'm just going to divide that goal by 500, and that'll tell me how many squares I need. And I'm thinking, what? So then it puts these $500 squares one after another. So every square you check is a $500 donation. Well, that's completely wrong for what I want. However, I kept going, and if you've looked at some of my other videos, I've been vibe coding and kind of waiting to come to this big update that I know has to happen. So today was the day I was going to do the big update, where it's like, all right, Claude, listen, there's a fundamental change that has to happen in the infrastructure. And I'm nervous that you're going to screw it up and create a huge mess and so on. So what I did was I watched a lot of YouTube videos and, tried to figure out how to best use agents. And my experience with agents has been frustrating because, one of the things you when you watch these YouTube videos, they make it so they make it sound so like, yeah, just do this and it's going to work. And what I created a master orchestration agent in my agents file, and that agent was meant to delegate to all of these other agents, and it never did it. So the master orchestrator would just write all the code. Now, why do we use agents? Agents is kind of a cool feature that lets you maximize your context windows. So the first thing that agents do is it lets you define, so like think of them as specialists. So I have a code refactoring agent, I have a GitHub agent, and these are all experts. Mux for video, Next.js for server architecture, and Supabase or Supabase, I don't know how you say it, for database management, so that when the goal is that when I'm chatting with Claude in my main context window, this is my main context window, I need a feature that tracks page views. So if I hit go, then it will say, okay, cool, I need you to use the Supabase agent first to build some database tables. Then I need you to stop and do that. And I need you to use the UI component to create a table view that shows people everything that happened, and so that way the user can see it. Then I need you to use, let's see, code refactoring to go through and clean up some of the mess that we created. Then I need you to use TypeScript to build the pages and so on. It doesn't do that. In fact, and I've talked to Claude about this. So I jump over to Claude and I say, hey man, how come I've got these agents, look at these agents, and they don't do what they're supposed to do? And Claude comes back to me and says, well, here's the thing about Claude agents is that they don't always activate. You can say as many times as you want. You'll notice in some of these Claude files, or, you are a code refactoring expert specializing in code quality, blah, blah, blah. And this sounds great, right? I mean, you're reading this like, man, this is exactly what I need it to do. It gives you examples. It really breaks it down, how this should work. And I even when I created it, if you go back to Claude, I created it here. I took all of the current agents that I have. I took a modified version of my Claude MD file, which if you're familiar, Claude MD is supposed to be the kind of big overall summary of what your project is. It's kind of, when Claude starts a new context window, it uses the Claude MD file to kind of get itself up to speed, so it's not starting completely fresh with nothing. So I took the Claude MD file, I took all the agents, and I said, hey, my chat was, well, it's not in here, but because Claude was meant being, oh yeah, it is. Anyway, so I told Claude, I said, I uploaded all my MD files, and I said, I need you to review the files I uploaded and create a QA agent based on all that resident experts and the Claude MD file. And what it gave me was this. I downloaded it and then dropped it in here, and this is what it gave me. So I didn't read, how many lines is this? This is like, what? Yeah, 760. I didn't read them all. I just assumed. And I think that's one of the things we're running into with AI is that, we're getting a little lazy when we're building these, vibe coding sessions, is we just assume that what AI gives us is going to be right, which it pretty much never is. And I even know that, yet I still, don't read through it. Now, but even when I do read through it, so let's just say, I do not make architectural decisions, change business logic, create new, you can tell Claude that this is something you do not do. Claude could completely ignore it. And that's something that I have found incredibly frustrating as a programmer for, quite a long time. When you program something, it does that thing or it doesn't. And if it doesn't, it's a bug. If it does do it, then it's proper, functionality. So it's never like kinda doing this thing. That's a bug. So, but you can fix bugs. You can go back in, see the error in your code, fix the code, change the whatever, and then it works. Well, this is highly frustrating because you can lay out, I gave it all of my reference material. This should be able to build the world's greatest QA agent. But will it? And so that's you're just kind of rolling the dice. Now, I know that, and actually, when I talked to Claude about this, to finish the thought, was Claude actually said that it does not have a built-in feature to do agent switching. It's something that it just does. And I'm thinking, well, how can that be a feature? It just sometimes works and sometimes doesn't. Anyway, so what I decided to do was obviously to tackle this project. And so hopefully you're skipping around in this YouTube video because this will be a long one. I took a bunch of screenshots while I was building this today, so that way I didn't have to have you wait while Claude did stuff. This is the current version, or the new version of Sapling. And again, UI's wrong and all that stuff. There's weird lines here, but this is what Claude generated, and I'll have to go back with UX stuff and shad CN and stuff like that, and clean it up, make it beautiful. But it's working. So. But there's these weird things, like I said, this goal thing, I don't know what, it just made it. So I was like, all right, fine, let's just roll with it. There's a million other things that have to get fixed before I tackle this one. And category, I don't need categories for any reason. That's not part of the project. So I went through and I created a really long prompt that I wanted Claude to break down for me. So, all right, so actually, I shouldn't even say it's really long. You can see here, if I zoom in a little bit, it's just this gray. I said, all right, we need to make a significant change to the platform. Currently, you can choose a category and a goal, put a screenshot of what I just showed you. And then I kind of break it down on what this thing needs to do. Now, I asked it to write a very detailed plan that breaks down these tasks according to the agents that we have available. So it's going to read the agent file. It's going to tell me, it's going to look, say, oh, I have all these agents. And then I wanted it to give me a step-by-step process of building this feature out broken down by the agents that it would have to use, because and then it said, all right, cool, I'm going to get after it, and it used Serena and all this stuff. Honestly, anyway, and then so it came down with this, and it said, great, I can see the grid implementation, blah blah blah. Now I have all the information. So it built this plan. Now normally you would say, go. And let me scroll down. I think I actually took scrolling screenshots. How funny is that? All right, so now you get to here and you say yes and bypass permissions. Now I am running in YOLO mode. I do have a couple of guardrails on so I don't delete, but honestly, this is just an experimental project, so I don't care. You never want to just run YOLO mode without any kind of protection against it, just removing all the files from your project. I also use GitHub, so even if it did, I've got some, repos. Anyway, but as you can see, if I go back up even, it says phase 5, testing updates using Next.js agent, which is what I have. And then it says TypeScript agent for phase 2, and it's going to give me the tasks. Now, normally what I've been doing is thinking, this is great. Now I just hit yes and bypass permissions. I don't know, go for a walk, maybe watch a movie and let it cook. And I've got Opus in Mac, so I'm probably not going to run out of tokens, and it'll just keep going. But two things. One, it's going to run out of context. Well, it's not supposed to, because it's supposed to use agents. The beautiful thing about agents is, one, you can segregate the domain knowledge into individual files so that your Next.js expert, your TypeScript expert, QA data, any of that stuff can be put into specific expert domains, which for someone like me, that feels better mentally. But the cooler feature is that each agent comes with its own context window. And that way, if my main agent, which I did get rid of the master orchestrator because that just did not work for me. I'm using my term, I'm acting as the orchestrator, which is what Claude told me to do. It said, you should really act as the orchestrator. In a very polite way, Claude said, stop being lazy and actually do some work, which was interesting. So anyway, I was able to get rid of the master orchestrator, and now I have all these agents. And when I type into my main context window, do this thing, I'm starting out with empty set of tokens. It's going to chew some of them up in the Claude MD file or any other files it includes, but then it's going to pass the baton to one of the agent files and get a brand new set of context, a brand new context window. The idea in Claude is that, great, I have 11 agents. It's going to use 6 of them. So that means I have 6 times 2,000 or 250, whatever it is. So I have that many tokens in a full context window to allow Claude not to get lost or confused and have to compact and start over, and then therefore lose a bunch of information. My experience, once Claude picks its first agent, it never picks another agent, or it doesn't do it reliably. So you could walk away for a half hour, come back, and let's say it picked TypeScript as the first agent and it wrote the whole application in it using 3 context windows, and it's a complete mess. So there's no, in my experience, reliable way for you to say, okay, use these 6 agents, please. Now, sometimes it will do it fabulously, but other times it just flat out won't. And I've even asked Claude, this is crazy too. I've asked Claude, hey, did you mean to not use? And it says, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't. And that's when I started to figure this out. So anyway, what I did instead was I copied this whole plan, and then I pasted it into Sublime, and then I added the original prompt on top, and then I added the top part of my prompt that I was going to do for every phase. So I broke this thing down into 6, because there's 6 phases, 6 individual prompts. So that means I can't go watch a movie, but at least I'm going to try to be a lot more granular. So I said, you're working on a large scale, da da da. I gave them that whole prompt, and I said, please use the agent suggested to complete phase. And then I did 1, then 2, then 3, then 4. And then I would come in and I would just give it the first phase. So I would take this and copy that, paste it into Claude, and let it run. Now, it's going to use the Supabase agent, which it seems to do, it did this every time exactly the way I expected. It called the one agent it said it would, it did it, and then it finished. And then what I did was when it was done, oh, I had to copy this too. Anyway, when it was done, it gave me this summary. It said, cool, this is what I did. And so I pasted that back into the Sublime file. And then I said, all right, I changed the, 1 to 2, 1 to 2. And then I went down here and I selected here, and then I came down here to 2. Phase 2. All right. Oh, that's phase 2 complete. Oh, I guess I deleted it. Sorry. I had it in here before. I must have been goofing around. I kind of modified this as I went. But anyway, I copied that, pasted that into Claude. But between each thing, as I said, clear. So then I would clear my context window. Now, at first it's like, well, wait a second. Should you really do that? Because if you're keeping the context window, the main context window, as clean as possible, you shouldn't run out of context or tokens to get all 6 phases done. And I do believe that that's probably true, but there's also the other thing that people are discovering is that the bigger and fuller your context window gets, the worse it gets in doing the job that it needs to. Now, I'm not going to do this task 3 times to see which one's the best. I guess I could, but anyway, I want it to. That's a good point. I could create a new branch and just start this over and see how it works. I don't know, see which one's better. Anyway, but I'm clearing it. Now, the reason I feel confident that I can clear it is that every time I give Claude a new phase, I'm giving it the old phases to work to know what it did do and what it said it did. And notice it says you should also review up here. You should also review the changes made in previous steps to confirm what has been done. So it'll go back and look, and it did do that. I mean, it wasn't, it wasn't 100%. But the one thing that was 100% that I got excited about was that it used in these phases, the backend service updates. It said. Actually, what's interesting? Oh, that's phase 3 summary. I'm sorry. Phase 3 backend service updates, and it tells you what agent to use. It always used the right agent because it was only having to call one because I told Claude in the beginning when it made the plan to break it down. Now, Claude, the app, told me don't do it this way, but I'm like, I don't know how else to do it. You're not giving me a solution. So I did it this way, broke them into individual prompts. So it took a while. I mean, I had to babysit a lot because, again, when I got phase 5 done, and then phase 6. Now all I need to do, it would just chew through it. Sorry, my mind isn't going 100 miles an hour. Trying to think of all the things I want to cover and not take 3 hours. But, I got to the end and it's all said and done and all the 6 phases are done. You'll notice, did I paste 6 in there? No, I don't think I did, but it did. It did do it. It's all done. And then I realized, well, Matt, you don't have a QA agent. That's when I decided to go to, if I go to my files, projects, and then, you have to show hidden files on OS X. But anyway, when you do, you can go into the Claude folder, agents, and I just took all these agents, pasted them into Claude with the Claude MD file, which I asked Claude Code to update for me based on all the changes that we made, so it was current. And I said, okay, this is when I need you to create this artifact of a brand new QA agent. So I downloaded it. And now what I would do is I would come back in and something with agents that I found interesting is that when you create an agent, they always say just go to agents, right? And then it gives you a list of all your agents and you can create a new agent. But the thing is, I have an agent. All I want to do is copy that file and drop it into this agents folder. And interestingly, when I asked Claude to write these agents originally, it did not include this YAML template up at the top, which I'm like, what? I mean, you're Claude, you should know this, but it didn't. It just gave me this. It started the MD file with this, and that took me a while because I'm like, well, I mean, again, I trusted Claude to build it, and then it didn't. And so you have to have the YAML, and basically all it did was it took the role and slapped it into the description, and then I'm using Opus and gave it a name. Well, that's interesting. It's actually code refactoring agent. So we have a problem here. So this will actually show us, this is good. So I'm just going to get rid of this. Because it's code refactoring MD, code refactoring dash agent. So I want to change that. Now, what I want to do, if I save this, what I had to do, this was interesting. So I had it Claude doesn't automatically list them in here just because you put a file in here. Notice it's called code refactoring agent, not code refactoring. That's weird. So what I want to do is I need Claude to kind of pick it up. So what I'm going to do is I typed in /agents. I'm going to come down to code refactoring. I'm going to delete the agent. So as long as you either create, edit, delete, it forces Claude to go through like a refresh. And now, oh, it didn't do it. So, oh shoot. I actually deleted, oh see, I thought it would. So it did keep the file name. All right, so what I need to do is go back to, let's go to code refactoring. And I'm gonna copy this. And then I'm going to create a new file. And I'm going to paste it, but I'm going to come back up here to the top. Now I'm probably, as you can tell, I'm probably being a little bit particular and anal about it, but I've had so many misses when it comes to taking like agents that exist, but they never get used. And then I, have to do this. So I'm just going to come in and I'm going to go to my TypeScript. I'm going to edit. I'm going to open in, let's just edit the color. So let's see if this works. I actually haven't done this before, so I'm just going to go to orange and go back. And so now it picked up code refactoring, which I didn't do anything to that one. I actually just changed the TypeScript one, but it causes Claude in here to pick it up, which it didn't do automatically. I had this problem anyway. It's a long story, but that's how I got it to pick up a file. Just because you put a file in your agents folder doesn't mean Claude knows it exists. You have to actually go through an exercise of doing something here before it actually picks it up. But now we're good. So anyway, so I'm going to close that out. Now notice I had to do that with my QA testing. So what I'm going to do is back out of here and I'm going to say, I need you to use the QA testing agent to test the newly updated grid system. Now, again, Claude isn't going to really know, code isn't going to know what grid system means. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my Sublime agent and I'm going to just select all this. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm going to come back up here. Please use agents suggested to complete. I'm just going to get rid of phase 6 so that way it doesn't, again, it may not matter. That's the weird thing about AI and these language models is, does the AI, we don't know if the AI reads this whole thing and says, I'm going to take everything literal and run with it, or am I going to take some of it and not all of it? And it's just weird. Like coming from a programming background where everything is taken literally, exactly the way you typed it, and if it doesn't work, it's an error, and if it does work, then it's as expected. This is just like, we'll just see what happens, kind of roll the dice. Anyway, I need you to use the QA testing agent tester. Here is the original prompt and plan that you created. And so I'm just going to hit, I don't know, I like shift return. It makes sense to me. It doesn't really need it, I don't think. Then I'm going to paste it. It's going to give me this huge amount of text, 250 lines. Now again, I'm on a brand new context, and then I'm going to hit enter. Now it's going to come down here. I pasted it all in, and now it's symbioting, and it's going to jump into hopefully the QA testing agent and get after it. So it's going to test it. Now, while it does that, I have not looked at any of the new look and feel. So let's just take a look. So let's go to localhost 3000. All right, this is the main page. It wouldn't have changed anything here. If I go to my account, it's taking its sweet time, or it's broken. This would happen a lot. So I'm gonna click it again, like, hit it twice and see if something happens, right? All right, so we're not getting anywhere. Oh, it did. It just took a while to compile. And again, I I didn't look at the code. I don't remember if it actually if it relaunched the dev server. I'm sure it did somewhere. And so now it's loading my dashboard, which usually takes quite a while the first time to get it to compile. Or again, it's stuck. You run into this a lot. So what we're going to find is we're trying to get to this, the campaigns, so that it loads up your campaigns and shows you. I can go into the edit and I can see if it actually did it. Okay. I have a $50 goal. Yeah, so we really blew that away. So let's go to edit. And the title, description, story, goal amount is locked. All right, so that is an existing campaign. I guess I would expect that. Let me just do create new and see what happens. All right. Interesting. Okay, so campaign title, new test, short. Oh, looks like that's required now, short description. Okay, I'm okay with that for now. But anyway, so this is cool. So 10 by 10, 25 by 10, 50 by 10. It even gave me a recommended. I didn't ask for that. So let's just stick with 100. Each square will have a sequential value from, I like that it did this. So this is all, I didn't ask for any design style. So this is my story. And okay, next and cancel. Not great UI, but whatever. Okay, so next. Again, I don't know what those lines mean. All right, cool. So campaign keyword. Let's do new test. It's checking. Did it work? So this is a keyword. This was part of, this is yeah, okay, good. It'll be now sapling.com, which is not accurate, /c/new test. Okay, next. Ready to publish. Yeah, let's see what happens. Campaign created successfully. Okay, well, hopefully it takes me off this page because there's no reason to stay here. It did not, so that's something to fix, but honestly, that would be simple. Let's go to cancel. Does that take me back to my campaign page? It would be nice if it did. All right, it did not. Let's go back to the dashboard and see if it created a second campaign. So I'll have to, well, anyway, I'll have to ask Claude, why is this page loading so blasted slow? Last night, I actually figured out that it was because it would query Stripe every time this page loaded and, or it would call an API, and that was the problem. Now it either reverted that or something else is just chewing up all kinds of time. Interestingly, there was a lot of changes made. This was a big feature update, so I'm guessing dashboard, the TSX files got really overhauled, which probably wiped out some of the old stuff. Again, the thing about context that's so different than people is that people have a pretty good memory. I mean, our context windows, when you think about it, are pretty remarkable in what they can remember. So, yeah, see, our numbers aren't reporting right. Anyway, so like if I did something last night and I'm programming something today, I'm not going to remove the thing that I did last night. That would be stupid. Instead, I'm going to say, oh yeah, I remember doing that last night. So don't touch it. But when you start with a brand new context window, Claude gets a brand new context. It doesn't use memories from last night. Now I know that I just read that Chat GPT is doing some of that memory stuff, and Claude's roadmap is suggesting that they're going to implement a pretty heavy-duty memory system in the future. So that's funny because the stuff we're doing today might actually be very different next week or next month. It's still fun to play, but anyway. So all right, so let me just view it. Let me just see what it did. So we're going to load the campaign. One thing I did with this one, what I asked Claude to do with the new version of Sapling is to make it completely video heavy. So it feels more like an Instagram page than it does a donation page, because we already have a million, like GoFundMe's and, whatever, that have just, cool banner image and then a giving page. So it's not, I don't want to recreate that. I want to create something different. So anyway, so it's video heavy. Again, the loading is really slow. I'm not sure why. But if I click, I will say I am surprised. Normally when I've built something even half as complicated as this, I'm already stuck and it doesn't load. The fact that I've gotten all my pages to load so far is pretty remarkable. So then I hit donate and it's supposed to pop up. Oh, look at that. The grid is alive. So I'm going to give $1, $2, donate $3, 26, 27. Man, that is slick. So, okay, so I'm going to give $56. Now I'm going to hit continue. My name is Bob Smith. My email is bobsmith@example.com. Ooh, leave a supportive message. Supportive message. All right, now I want to cover the processing fees so that the nonprofit doesn't get dinged. So it adds, I'm not even sure where it got that number, but anyway, continue to payment. Now remember, I hooked up Stripe Connect. And the question I'm wondering is, okay, when you went in there, Claude, to rebuild this entire giving system, did you what did you mess things up from other code? Wow, what? Oh, okay. I was gonna say that shouldn't have happened. That would have been awesome if it was that simple, but it doesn't know your credit card. So I'm gonna put my card on file. Let's just do 41111 and 1229. 123 and my zip code. All right, cool. Now, complete Amazon Pay. Not even sure where that came from, but I'm going to process it. Not going to save it. Complete donation of 57. Okay, did it work? It's weird because nothing is happening. So as a user experience, this is terrible. Do I press it 6 times? Cool. And oh, okay, that went away. No, I didn't ask it to fix any of that stuff, but it stinking worked. Now if I go back to donate, cool. It looks like that's strange. That must have been the prize. There was a prize on number 1. I don't even know how that happened because I didn't set that up. That'll be the next big project. But there it is. And it's working. That's remarkable. Although, the fact that I have $50 goal, then that's because Stripe does everything in cents. So Claude has gotten really confused. I spent an hour on that last night just trying to get Claude to understand that, okay, when anything goes to Stripe, it goes in as cents, not dollars and cents. It's only cents. So that's getting confused. But so far, honestly, this is remarkable. Now, in the background, I'm running a QA test. So it's still doing it. But what's cool is, look, it did call the QA testing agent. It's writing it. The average amount of tokens that were used in any one of these phases was about 80,000. So nice that it didn't, blow up the context window in each individual agent. But let's say that it used, this is a big one. It's still testing. That's interesting. Oh, never mind. I thought it was. Anyway, the one thing it does do is I've noticed that when it's using an agent, it doesn't actually give you an update. It just keeps this thing going. Now, I think it's like a shortcut command to expand this. I don't remember what it is. But when it's done, it'll tell you how many tokens it used, which is great. But if let's say it took 80,000 tokens, and then my main context window, which is right here, if that was another 30,000 tokens, now I'm starting to get, over half, and now my quality starts to break down. So if I were doing it all in one single context window, that could end up being bad. Are we still in the Wild West and I'm doing this all wrong? Potentially, yeah, for sure. But I do think that, this so far, I will say, is giving me the best results of the things that I'm building. And what I asked it to do is pretty complex. So, and I still have some complex things to wrap up before I can really start to look at the UX, to really clean up things. I really wanted to redesign the admin using a little more modern, ShadCN, templates and things like that, instead of just what it came up with Bootstrap or Tailwind. Anyway, I hope this was helpful. yeah, the agents have been a real bear to figure out, but I might be onto something, and I'm pretty excited about it. But still, man, we're in the Wild West right now, so more to come.